For those of you downtown who don't know who I am and what I'm thinking, well, we're going to talk about the banality of evil and why the more you try and expose this evil, the more you're deemed evil. That's the problem. The more you expose something in society that's incredibly disturbing and wrong, the more they try and pick apart your brain, and then they try and gaslight you and say what you're thinking, and your whole life history will go by. If you never gain political power, it's not a privilege that the news media puts a camera in your face. It's actually a moral and societal obligation these corporations never understood because it was never theirs to control. They're not the architects of truth. They're not the paragons of truth. They don't own the truth. They don't. And the fucked up thing is, if you want to know what I'm thinking, I'm gonna let you know. Maybe my thinking will give you more freedom of choice. Maybe it'll make you feel more like you have more free will, but I doubt it. I doubt it. There's something called the game of life. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but it made sense to me, and it actually defined a lot of my choices. In the game of life, there was a neural network. Excuse me. There was a neural network of computers, supercomputers, and they all competed against each other. They basically made a more complex game of the prisoner's dilemma, right? And if you don't know, the prisoner's dilemma is a zero-sum game. It's a zero-sum game. You don't have many options, and the options you do have doesn't net you a real positive in the end. So maybe the entire game of life is really just the prisoner's dilemma. I don't know. Maybe a mathematician could tell me that. But in essence, there's only two options in the game of life. Either you cooperate or you defect. Right? Animals in nature, it seems like, I'm quoting this video I watched, but, animals in nature, they make strategic decisions, and sometimes they make decisions that seem counter to their survival. But in the long term, you find out, you know, even if you're subject to a predator in society, or sorry, in nature, sometimes your decisions will determine whether you survive in the end. Even if you make yourself more known, right? If you work within the dark forest as a hunter, you become the hunted. That's the game of life. In the neural network of these supercomputers, there was either cooperate or defect. It turns out what one of these computer programs is called tit for tat. And what it did is every time the opponent would defect, it would defect, right? You get points based on defecting, right? So if you don't cooperate, you get the point. But they realize that if you cooperate, it'll stop your opponent from defecting. You will cooperate, and it will actually gain you net more points if you cooperate every now and then. So this may actually explain human psychology. Right? Humans cooperated to net a benefit. Right? We're a social species. That was the entire idea of, early hominids and primates and shit like that. But it turns out when you're dealing with psychopathy, like what I've been mentioning, they will never cooperate. They will always defect. And therefore, their opponent will always defect. And therefore, this explains the whole political reality of what we're living in. Right? The cops are fucking psychopathic. These lawyers, judges, cops, private investigators, news journalists, corporate espionage, whatever. They're all psychopathic. Right? And they cannot be cooperated with. So look, this is the political reality we live in. We live in the theater of the political absurd. And if you don't want to start empathizing with people, then fuck the planet. The planet can die. Your whole species can fucking die. All of you. And I'm so glad. I'm so fucking glad. You deserve it. You never cooperate. So that's why I've been defecting. If you want to know my shitty fucking angry behavior, that's why I've been defecting.